Alright, we are here live for a huge sports talk, season 2, episode 3. Today there's been a bunch of things that happened on Discord today, including, so much has happened that I even had to recreate the level system a little bit. So those of you who are, most of you, not all of you who are in the Discord server have been promoted, but majority of you who were in the Discord server have been promoted a level. Some of them have been demoted for inappropriate behavior. So yeah, that's what happened there. So for this week, let's talk about huge sports talk. We decided to remove some irrelevant sports that aren't relevant to the native language of English. And we also removed sports that had nothing to do with teams, because they're not too relevant to us, at least to me right now. As you can see, here is the list of active leagues. So the inactive leagues are now the minor leagues of every league and some of the other major leagues of soccer. So we have all the minor leagues set up except for the minor leagues of the Premier League, because they have too many. So yeah. Let's get started by talking about football. As you can see, we're going to go back a week. Here were the results. Of the playoff matches. We're only going to talk about the leagues that are actually active, so we're going to skip baseball. So we're going to start off with the NFL, starting with the Arizona Cardinals. And oh yeah, this is one of the teams that made the playoffs. So in here, we're only going to talk about the teams that were in the wild card playoffs. So if your team didn't make the playoffs, you won't be featured this episode. So we're going to start with the Cardinals. The Cardinals lost to the Rams in the playoffs, and as you can see, they won the first 7 games. So they were 7-0. And then their downfall happened towards the second half. They still made the playoffs, however. But then they lost to the Rams, and now they are eliminated and will be sitting another season of wait. Moving on to the next team, the Atlanta Falcons did not make the playoffs. Neither did the Baltimore Ravens. So we're moving on to the Bills. The Bills did an excellent job in the first round by taking down the New England Patriots, as they usually do with Josh Allen during the first round of playoffs, and will advance to the second round of the playoffs against the Kansas City Chiefs, which will be a great game to watch. And I believe, what channel is that going to be on? It's going to be on CBS this time. So for those of you who are interested in watching that playoff game. Injuries to note, they got Boateng, White, Zimmer, and Cox Jr. all out, as 2 of them are out for the season. Another is out until we don't know. Moving on, Panthers didn't make the playoffs. Bears didn't make the playoffs, but the Bengals, however, did. And in the first round of the playoffs, the Bengals defeated the Las Vegas Raiders, meaning that the Bengals will be moving on into the second round for the first time in 31 years. So, people from Cincinnati, your wait is over. You guys have finally made it to the second round of the playoffs. But don't be fooled. You still got to get through 3 more to win it all. So, and in this next game, in the second round of the playoffs, they will take on the Tennessee Titans at their stadium. That will also be broadcasted on CBS. And injuries to note. Wilson's out for the season. I didn't mean to select him. Auden Tate and Terry Hendrickson are both questionable, but everyone else is not going to be present in the next game, including Ogunjobi, Phillips, Reef, Wilson, and Evans. Some of them don't even know when they return. Moving on, Browns didn't make the playoffs, but the Cowboys did. And for the Cowboys, well, in the first round of the playoffs, they were eliminated by the San Francisco 49ers. However, the last play of the game was very controversial, so we don't really know who truly deserves to win the game because of that controversial bullcrap where the ref steps in the way of the Cowboys. Which there could be. I don't think there's any videos on here for some reason. The game was broadcasted on Nickelodeon. So that makes matters worse because controversial plays should probably not even be on Nickelodeon. Because in front of a child audience, who knows what could possibly happen. Moving on to the Denver Broncos. They didn't make the playoffs. Neither did the Lions. Moving on to the Packers, who were one of the 2 bye teams this season and automatically qualified for the second round of the playoffs just because they were number 1 seed. However, in the second round of the playoffs, they will take on the San Francisco 49ers. And they are going to do it on Fox this time. Injuries to note. You have some people questionable. Like Alexander Jones and Cobb, which are out for. Some of them are ready to play in a divisional round. The others could come. But those who are going to be out is going to be Summers, Taylor, Jenkins, Mercilus, Tonyan, and Ramsey. Next playoff team is the Kansas City Chiefs. In the first round of the playoffs for the Kansas City Chiefs, they took on the Pittsburgh Steelers, which in that game they won, making that game Ben Roethlisberger's final game of his career. Meaning next year, I betcha the Steelers are probably going to draft a first-round quarterback, kind of like the Saints did. When Drew Brees retired. In the second round, the Chiefs will take on the Buffalo Bills. And injuries to note, Edwards-Helaire could come in the game, but Ncaa, Namons, Saunders, Remmers, Fortson, and Williams are all out and will not be in the game. Moving on to the Las Vegas Raiders. The Las Vegas Raiders were eliminated in the first round of the playoffs by the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, again, that game was like the Cowboys game. This game was also controversial as one touchdown that was supposed to be ruled as a no touchdown was ruled a touchdown. The referee of that game was banned from all playoff games. I don't know for how long, but he cannot ref playoff games anymore. So the least matters got taken care of there. No, the Cowboys did not win. I'm talking about a different game. I'm talking about the Bengals one. Moving on to the Rams. The Rams took care of what was supposed to be the best team in the NFC or even the best team in the league, the Cardinals. But they took them down, and now because of that, the Rams are going to the second round of the playoffs like they did last year. But they will play the same opponent they played last year in the second round of the playoffs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can they get revenge against them? We'll see. This game will be broadcasted on NBC. And here are some injuries to note for the Rams. Darrell Henderson Jr., Robert Woods, Sebastian Joseph Day, Johnny Muddant, and Jamel Dempsey are all listed as out. Robert Woods is out for the whole season, so you won't see him until next year. So, yeah. Moving on to the Patriots. The Patriots, well, they did not survive the first round of the playoffs as they've lost to the Buffalo Bills. Now, this wasn't a surprise to me because I didn't think they would get very far without Tom Brady helping and carrying most of the team. As now they have what they call Mac Jones, but he's not as good as Tom Brady is for the Patriots. So Patriots fans, you're probably not going to win another Super Bowl for a while. You've already won 6 anyway. Moving on. The Philadelphia Eagles also lost in the first round of playoffs. This one was to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers destroyed them as the game was, well, not theirs to win. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, they also lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Kansas City Chiefs. And again, this is because of that, this is classified as Roethlisberger's final game of his season and of his career. So that probably means they're going to go for a first-round draft quarterback. Unless if they have a good backup, then they could just draft a lower quarterback and draft based on needs. Moving on to the 49ers. The 49ers got a big win against the Dallas Cowboys. Again, that game was controversial, though. And the 49ers will move to the second round. And their opponent is the Green Bay Packers. And that game will be broadcasted on Fox. Are you kidding me? We're losing again. And we'll see what happens in the second round. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won against the Philadelphia Eagles in the first round of the playoffs and will play the Rams in the second round of the playoffs. And it looks like when it comes to statistics-wise, Tampa Bay looks like they have the upper hand. For those injured, though, Tristan Whiffs, Cyril Grayson, Ronald Jones II, and Leonard Fournette are questionable for that game. The players that will be out is Richard Sherman, Pat O'Connor, and Chris Godwin. It's not two O's. And moving on to the final playoff team, the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, it was the other team who got the first round bye this season. So they automatically qualify for the second round of the playoffs because of that. And this time they're going to take on Cincinnati. The Cincinnati Bengals is their next opponent, as that game will be broadcasted on CBS. And some players to note. Players that are sidelined are basically players that will not be in the game but will sit from the sidelines and watch, and that would be Derrick Henry. However, everyone else is probably not going to be watching the game, and these include Michael Pruitt, Marcus Johnson, Terrence Evans, Cameron Batson, B.J. Bello, Sam Ficken, or Ficken, not Frickin', it's Sam Ficken, and Trayvon Coley. They're all out. However, some may return to the playoffs later, and the rest probably won't. Moving on, we are skipping the MLB because there is no season right now. It is the off season, and this off season could be extended if the MLB lockout does not end anytime soon. Although they do have a schedule some reason. As if you look on the 26th, that's when the preseason would begin. So we're going to skip right to basketball instead and take a look at the past week. Starting with the 6th. As you can see, you had the Washington Wizards destroy the Oklahoma City Thunder. You had the Suns beat the Raptors. So the winners on January 11th are the Wizards, the Suns, the Pelicans, Grizzlies, Bulls, and the Clippers. So congratulations to them. On the 12th, it was the Wizards again, the Celtics, Hornets, Heat, Knicks, surprisingly the Rockets, the Cavaliers, the Nets, and the Kings. Day 3 of the week, and the Bucks won. The Pelicans won against the Clippers, surprisingly. The Grizzlies won. The Thunder destroyed the Nets. And the Nuggets destroyed the Trailblazers. I have not seen a team score 140 points in a long time. Fourth day of the last week, Detroit wins, Phoenix wins, Orlando wins, Philadelphia wins, Golden State wins, Miami wins, Cleveland, Sacramento, and Dallas all beat their opponents on the fourth day of this week. Fifth day of the week, Washington Portland wins against Washington. Toronto wins against Milwaukee. New York beats Atlanta. Brooklyn beats New Orleans. Philadelphia beats Miami. Cleveland beats Oklahoma City. Boston beats Chicago. San Antonio beats Los Angeles Clippers. Denver beats the Los Angeles Lakers. And Dallas beats Orlando. On the 6th day of this week, Phoenix beat Detroit. Houston beat Sacramento. Utah beat Denver. And Minnesota beat Golden State. And then on the last day, Washington beats Philadelphia. Boston beats New Orleans. Charlotte beats New York. Cleveland beats Brooklyn. Los Angeles Clippers beats Indianapolis or Indiana. Memphis beats Chicago. Atlanta beats Milwaukee. Portland beats Orlando. Miami beats Toronto. And Dallas beats Oklahoma City. Phoenix beats San Antonio. And the Los Angeles Lakers beat Utah. And let's look at the standings by conference, because that's how it's supposed to go. Playoff range are the Bulls, the Heat, the Nets, the Cavaliers, the Bucks, the 76ers, the Hornets, the Wizards, the Raptors, and the Celtics, all in playoff range. However, the Hornets, the Wizards, the Raptors, and Celtics all could take part in the play-in tournament, which is a tournament where only 2 of those 4 teams make it out and move to the playoffs to take 7th and 8th seed, which is a strange tournament. Because in my preference, I would just have... Well, at least they do have 16 teams in the regular playoffs. Like they should. I think every league should have half of their team numbers make the playoffs. But it would have to work evenly as well. Which is why the NFL should have 16, but they don't. They only have 14. The MLB should have 16, but they only have 12. And people are trying to get it to stay at 12. Well, actually, I think it was originally 10. They're trying to get it to 12. Some are trying to get it to 14. Hopefully it gets to 16. Because it's bullcrap how half the teams don't even get to make the playoffs. The NHL is doing their job as they have 16. MLS, they, I don't remember, but their team count's a little different, so it should be at 7 per conference. So, yeah. That's that. Moving on to the National Hockey League. Let's look at the results. First things first. The Carolina Hurricanes, the Philadelphia Flyers, New York Islanders, and Calgary couldn't play their games on the 11th. Tampa Bay destroyed the Buffalo Sabres. The Florida Panthers beat the Vancouver Canucks by 3. The Chicago Blackhawks beat the Columbus Blue Jackets by 2. An overtime game was won by the Nashville Predators against the Colorado Avalanche. The Pittsburgh Penguins destroyed the Anaheim Ducks. The Toronto Maple Leafs won the shootout against the Las Vegas Golden Knights. The San Jose Sharks won against the Detroit Red Wings, and the other 2 games on this list have been postponed due to COVID, probably. So they will be played another day. On the 12th, the Minnesota Wild and the Edmonton Oilers game has been moved because of COVID. But the 3 games that took place on this day, the Boston Bruins won by 4 against the Montreal Canadiens. The Dallas Stars won by 3 against the Seattle Kraken. And the Arizona Coyotes embarrassed the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm going to say that every time. I'm going to say that they embarrassed them every time Arizona wins because they are known as the worst team. So if you lose to the worst team, you're basically embarrassed from now on. So in this case, Toronto just got embarrassed. On the 13th, we have a total of 11 games that took place this day. The Philadelphia Flyers and the Boston Whalers. The Boston Whalers won by 1 in that game. The Columbus Blue Jackets shutout, and it's a shutout and a blowout against the Carolina Hurricanes. The Tampa Bay Lightning won by 2 against the Vancouver Canucks. The Winnipeg Jets shut out the Detroit Red Wings by 3. The New York Islanders have embarrassed the New Jersey Devils because the Islanders are in 8th in their division right now. So, again, we're going to save that again. So it's Montreal, Islanders, Arizona, Seattle, as what I remember. The St. Louis Blues won against the Seattle Kraken by 1. The Buffalo Sabres won against the Nashville Predators by 3. The Chicago Blackhawks won in overtime against the Montreal Canadiens. The Ottawa Senators won against the Calgary Flames by 3. The Los Angeles Kings destroyed the Pittsburgh Penguins by 4. And the New York Rangers beat the shutout the San Jose Sharks. On the 4th day, we had the Las Vegas Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers game get moved because of COVID. But out of the games that were played, the Florida Panthers destroyed with a blowout against the Dallas Stars. The same thing goes to the Minnesota Wild, as they also had 7 points, but they only won by 4 as opposed to 5 as of 6. The Colorado Avalanche won in a shootout against the Arizona Coyotes. On the 5th day of the week, the Washington Capitals took care of the New York Islanders. The Boston Bruins won in overtime against the Nashville Predators. The Carolina Hurricanes beat the Vancouver Canucks. I don't know what happened in that game right here, but the Florida Panthers won by 7 against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Like, nothing beats losing by 7 in a hockey game. Moving on, the Detroit Red Wings shut out the Buffalo Sabres. The New York Rangers won by 1 against the Philadelphia Flyers. Toronto won against St. Louis. Tampa Bay won against Dallas. Chicago won against Anaheim. Colorado won against Arizona. Los Angeles won against Seattle. Ottawa won against Edmonton, and then the Penguins beat the Sharks in overtime. And then meanwhile, the New Jersey Devils and Montreal Canadiens game has been postponed. The Senators and Jets game was postponed. The Golden Knights and the Flames game was also postponed. Day 6 of the week, there was supposed to be 2 games, but only one of them happened because the Oilers and the Oilers and Jets game was postponed because of COVID. So the only game that happened on this day was the Canucks versus the Capitals, and the Canucks won that game by 2. And then moving on to the last day of that last week, the Red Wings won against the Sabres. The Avalanche won against the Wild. The Sharks won against the Kings. The Coyotes won against the Canadiens. The Kraken embarrassed the Blackhawks. The Islanders embarrassed the Flyers. The Blues won against the Predators, and the Penguins won against the Golden Knights. And however, the Devils and Maple Leafs game was postponed due to COVID. And then here are the standings. So right now in playoff range, we have the in the East. We have the Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning, Toronto Maple Leafs, New York Rangers, Carolina Hurricanes, Pittsburgh Penguins, Washington Capitals, and the Boston Bruins. Almost said Boston Whalers, but that's in the UAFL. And in the West, in playoff range is the Colorado Avalanche, St. Louis Blues, Nashville Predators, Las Vegas Golden Knights, Los Angeles Kings, the Anaheim Ducks, Minnesota Wild, and the San Jose Sharks, as the Sharks now make a return. So is this the downfall of Calgary? Who knows? Because Calgary wasn't first in this division. So we're going to skip the MLS because the MLS season is over. So we're going to skip right to the Premier League. But however, the season is scheduled to start pretty soon, as it starts on the 26th of February. So that would be the second season of this chapter. However, for right now, let's take a look at the Premier League. I don't remember all the abbreviations, but Southampton beat Brentford 4-1. The Everton versus Leicester City game was postponed due to COVID. On the 12th, West Ham United has beaten Norwich City. There was no game on the 13th. So on the 14th, Brighton and Hove Abbey has tied with Crystal Palace. On the 15th, we had 6 games. One of them was postponed, though, so only 5 were completed. Manchester City won against Chelsea. Newcastle United and Watford tied. Norwich City won against Everton. Wolves won against Southampton. And Aston Villa tied with Manchester United. The Burnley and Leicester City game tied. Psych, it was postponed. On the 16th, Liverpool won against Brentford. Leeds United won against West Ham United. And the game between Tottenham Hotspur and Arsenal was postponed, probably due to COVID. And then yesterday, there were no games, and let's take a look at the tables. So as you can see, Manchester City is still number 1 in hopes of winning the Premier League for a second year in a row. I believe last year, that's what that was. Liverpool, however, is in second, Chelsea on third, and West Ham United in fourth. Those 4 will move on to the Champions League if they finish in those 4 spots at the end of the season. Arsenal is in 5th as of right now, and if they finish in 5th, they will move to the Europa League, which is a smaller tournament. Everyone else is safe from relegation unless if you are the bottom 3. If you are the bottom 3, you will be relegated back down to the Division 2 in England, which would include Norwich City, Newcastle United, and Burnley. Speaking of the Champions League, let's take a look at some of the matches. Oh, wait, there are no matches. probably because this stage is over. This stage of the battle has ended. So the next game for Norwich, or the next game for the UEFA Champions League, will take place on Tuesday, February 15th, which is in the second season of the chapter. And apparently they all begin at the same time. So it's going to be hard choosing which game you want to watch, because you can only watch one because they all start at the same time. What time does it start at in Western Europe time? That would be 8 o'clock. Who starts a soccer game at 8 o'clock? If you were to pick any time, I would have just picked 4 or 1. But I see why they picked this time, because there's also fans from the United States as well. So if they picked 1, it would be 8 o'clock where I live. And it would be 4 a.m. in towards the western part of... It would be 5 a.m. in the Pacific area. So it's a time that works with almost the entire world. It maybe except Australia. Euro Cup will continue, I don't know. We'll see. Doesn't tell me. Oh, that's the Euro Cup. Never mind. That's the wrong thing. I think I forgot to put the Europa League on here. Let me go do that. Now, where is the Europa League? All I know is I put it somewhere, and I have no idea. There it is. I didn't add it on accident. Let's move it up to where it belongs. That's actually not where it goes, actually. The Europa League is right here now. The next game for them will be on the 17th, and they all take place at different times. These are for some of the teams that finished in I believe 5th place in their division. I think this would be the bracket stage, if I'm not wrong. So there will be more games. Moving on, skipping Euro Cup because the Euro 2020 is over. Don't know why they called it 2020. They should have called it 2021. But be prepared for Euro 2022. And also be prepared for the World Cup, as that takes place this year as well. There's still teams that are qualifying for it, though. But once they're all done, the bracket will be set up here, and we'll be able to see who goes against who with the 32 best soccer nations in the world from 6 confederations: North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Australia and the Oceania. But Australia is actually in the Asian division. I don't know why. They just put them there. So that's just the Oceania at that point. Ncaa Football. Nothing really happened much other than one thing.
Happy birthday, my baby. Happy birthday to my baby.
Happy birthday.
As you can see, Georgia is this year's best college football college in the country this year, as they have defeated Alabama, preventing them going back-to-back.
And I stopped at Acme on the way home, and I got you some flowers and another bear and a retirement.
So moving on to baseball, that doesn't begin yet, so we're going to move on. Basketball. Today's the 17th. No, it's not. This is February. So here were the games in the top 25 that were finished. We're not even going to go over all of them because there's just so many. But let's take a look at the standings for the top 25. Gonzaga in first, Auburn in second, Arizona in third, Purdue in fourth, Baylor in fifth, Duke in sixth, Kansas in seventh, Wisconsin in eighth, UCLA in ninth, Houston in 10th, Villanova in 11th, Kentucky in 12th, LSU in 13th, Michigan State in 14th, Iowa State in 15th, USC in 16th place, Illinois in 17th, Texas Tech in 18th, Ohio State in 19th, Xavier in 20th, Providence in 21st, Lola, Illinois 22nd, Texas in 23rd, Tennessee in 24th, and Connecticut in 25th. Moving on to their hockey league, as their games were the following. As you can see, some teams are better than others, and sometimes they get postponed or canceled. College has a habit of canceling games. This team right here, I can't tell if that's from Canada or not, because that looks like the Montreal Canadiens logo. I don't know if they have Canada colleges taking part in the in NCAA hockey, because the NHL has 7 different Canadian hockey teams, and the league originated from Canada. It's the only league that I know that originated from Canada that's a major league. So yeah, those were the games. Here are the rankings. First, Minnesota State. Second, Quinnipiac. Third, Michigan. Fourth, Western Michigan. Fifth, North Dakota. Fifth again, Minnesota Duluth. Apparently they tied when it comes to points by the voters. Seventh, St. Cloud State. Eighth, Denver. Ninth, Cornell. 10th, Notre Dame. 11th, Minnesota. 12th, Massachusetts. 13th, Northeastern. 14th, UMass Lowell. 15th, Nebraska Omaha. And that's it. They only go by the top 15 on this list. XFL. Sorry for the bad news, but your season's canceled until 2023 now. Which we already knew this. And the last thing that's changed was 71 days ago. So that number is continuing to grow. Leaf says L streamer. But out of the rankings, I guess it's safe to say Houston is the champions of the year, as they went 5-0 before COVID messed up the rest of the 2020 season. In the Canadian Football League, again, that season's ended as well. Winnipeg won that. Women's basketball is not live right now, but I believe Connecticut has won. They should have just called them Hartford. The World Cup is over, and NCAA Women. For women's basketball, here is the games that took place first. As you can see, There were several different games that took place. And yeah, that's all the games. In the top 25, first place is South Carolina University. Second is Stanford University. Third is Louisville. Fourth is North Carolina State. Fifth is Tennessee University. Sixth is Indiana. Seventh is Iowa State. Eighth is Michigan. Ninth is Connecticut. 10th is Arizona. 11th is LSU. 12th is Maryland. 13th is Georgia. 14th is Oklahoma. 15th is Baylor. 16th is Texas. 17th goes to BYU. 18th goes to Georgia Tech. 19th goes to Notre Dame. 20th goes to North Carolina. 21st goes to Duke. 22nd goes to Colorado. 23rd goes to Kentucky. 24th goes to Florida Gulf Coast. And 25th goes to Iowa. And that is basically all of the regular sports. Now let's talk about access sports. Starting with the DFL, even though that's not access football, but let's look at the standings. One of the teams used one of the logos from the huge esports, which we will talk about later. But I think 3 teams from each conference make the playoffs, as of what I think. So as of right now, the Marauders, the Greenskins, and the Dragons are all suited. So that would be the St. Louis Marauders, the Oregon Greenskins, and the Indianapolis Dragons are set to make the playoffs right now. However, there's other teams like the Big Peen Gang, the Drunk Tailgaters, White Van Owners, and the Cake Eaters, who are not in playoff range. And in the East, you have the... Wait a second. Why is Indianapolis considered the West? I don't know. The East has the Pittsburgh Temper in number 1, the Jacksonville Cougars in second, and where is that? The Bangladesh Blue Jays. I forgot they changed their name to that. And then everybody else... Wait, there was a tie? How did they tie? I don't know. That's kind of strange. Moving on, XFL. Let's look at the Season 5 standings.
See if Kara's fed them.
Okay. All right, standings. Baltimore Braves up 5-0 this season. Have not lost a single game. Maybe hope is returning for the fans of Baltimore. Kara, Jen wants to know if you fed the dogs. Where did she go? Oh. She said no. In first in the AFC East is Nebraska Thunder, 6-0. Houston is 3-2 and they're number 1. Kansas City is 4-1. Detroit is 5-1. Dallas is 4-1. Orlando and Arizona are all division leaders and can make the playoffs. But there's going to be 3 other teams from each conference making the playoffs as well. Dang, I didn't know the Pittsburgh Ironhawks were 3-3. That's the first time they actually had a terrible record. Maybe the division will actually be competitive then. Because who knows? And then moving on to the bigger leagues, the Ultimate Access Football League. Here is the standings. Some of the games, this is actually as of the end of the 4th round. 2 games of the 5th round have already happened. So we're going to look it up on challenge.com instead because that's where the accurate results come from. UAFL Atlantic Division is more than halfway done. So let's take a look at the standings. In playoff rank, in this league, also in the XAFL, before we continue, the XAFL has introduced a relegation system where the worst team will be replaced by one of the 4 following teams. Either the Winnipeg Devil Cats, the Montreal Terrapins, Vancouver Mallards, or the Mexico City Jaguars could take their spot. It could be, as relegation could be a big thing in the XAFL, because that means some teams that aren't winning games can be kicked out of the league. Question is, how are we going to decide who joins in the league? Well, I'll probably see if we could do a playoff, a promotion playoff, and the winner of the promotion playoff would get promoted. But anyways, back to the Ultimate Access Football League. In the division, in the Atlantic Division, the New York Barons are currently in first place in their division for the first time ever. The Boston Whalers are in second, but they still have a game coming up I believe tomorrow or the day after. I think it was tomorrow. The Dallas Stampede also have a game, but I believe they play on in 2 days. And then you got the Miami Warriors in 4th. Because of the Miami was previously in 5th for a while, but because of the big win that they got today over the Buffalo Grizzlies, they now are back into playoff range. How big of the win? Well, they had 101 points, which is a record for the number of points scored in an UAFL game ever. So good luck beating that, because the old record was 88. So Boston scored both the second highest and the third highest amount of points scored, which was 80 and 88. But Miami has scored the most against Buffalo for 101 points. Moving on, for the bottom 4, however, if they finish in these spots, they will be relegated because we have a relegation system in this league, meaning if they do not make the playoffs, they will not show up for the next season as well. If you want to know what I'm talking about, I actually forgot to simulate a couple of these games, so I will do that real quick too, as I believe 2 of them are supposed to be simulated. So let me go ahead and do that now. Here's how I do. The minor league games are decided by coin toss. Major leagues are not. So the home team has won twice. So Birmingham, Alabama has beaten New York, Albany. And Harrisburg, Pennsylvania lost to Louisville. So here's the standings right now. The top 4 in the Atlantic minor league division. I'm going to name it. That's Atlantic minor division. The top 4 in the minor... the top 4 teams in the Atlantic Minor Division move on and will compete in the UAFL next season. And so far, it is Birmingham, Alabama. What did I do? Wait a minute. Birmingham, Alabama is in. Birmingham, Alabama, New York, Albany, New York, Louisville, Kentucky, and Salem, Massachusetts are expected to move into the Ultimate Access Football League as of next season. So that's that.
What happened with her?
So let me see, because we haven't had any 5-0 teams. So it looks like Birmingham, Alabama has clinched the UAFL, so congratulations to the people of Alabama. You will be competing in the major leagues of the Ultimate Access Football League in 2023. So I'm going to go ahead and mark an X for that. So they clinched. They clinched. Did they beat Newark and Charleston? If they beat Newark, Charleston, and Loudoun, they also clinch. So let me look at Albany's record. They beat Loudoun, so that's 1. They beat Newark, that's 2. But they did not beat Charleston yet. So that means Charleston could still... So that means Albany has not clinched the playoffs yet. Well, really, there's not... Yeah, there is a playoffs in the minor league as well. However, it doesn't really do much because no matter what outcome in the playoffs happens, you still get promoted. So there's now only 3... So one of the spots for the UAFL 2023 Atlantic Division's been taken. There's still 7 left. 4 of them will go to teams already that are already in the UAFL. Boston's most likely can clinch it this week. And for the other 3 spots, it can either go to Albany, New York, Louisville, Kentucky, Salem, Massachusetts, Newark, New Jersey, Charleston, South Carolina, Loudoun, Virginia, or Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So in other words, there's still playtime left. Albany's the first to clinch anything in the entire league for the Atlantic Division. So really, it's safe to say there's 16 teams in the Atlantic Division. It's just that half of them will play in the majors. So yeah, that is basically the end of the stream. If you guys enjoyed, subscribe, and we will see you guys